OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 326. The Bounty Hunters. Now, how does fleet-born culture work? Well, it's always moving to begin with. Because of this, it's more important than ever to create both a language of your own, but also to learn galactic trade. Trade means you can be assured everyone can always hear you, but your own language means that you have something of your own. Some fleets prefer uniforms, jewelry, or hairstyles, but languages are the oldest and most traditional method, Slytherin explains. He'd finished a systems check on his drone, and it had incorporated the new ablative plates effortlessly. There was also no negative side effects from the numerous EMP pulses it had sustained. Even the smaller incorporated drones were in tip-top condition. Did your fleet have a language? Observer Wu asked. We did something else. Languages are for longer established fleets. My own used beacon bands, Slytherin explains before lifting up the tip of his tail. Before I was captured, I used to have a small piercing at the tip of my tail. In it, there was a locator beacon with a private IFF aimed for my fleet. I don't have it anymore. When the chaining came for us, our ships were smashed and the survivors were pulled out of the wreckage. It didn't take very long for me to be the only survivor left. They made a point of smashing my beacon in front of me when they learned it was giving me the strength to keep going. As Slytherin explains all this, he brings his coils up under him and then brings around the tip of his tail. There is a finger-sized hole in the tail, roughly an arm's length away from the tip. It's also as thick as a man's leg at this point. It used to be right there, a simple-looking band of metal, but that was just the chrome casing of the rescue beacon. My mother's promised to me that no matter what happened, she would come to rescue me. He takes his tail in his hands and runs his fingers near the piercing. The sight of his mechanical fingers and the empty scar on his being clearly stirring something within the young Nagasha. What a difference a year and change make. Are you all right, young man? Observer Wu asks. This is the last part of me that is untouched by cruelty and madness. I don't know if I love it or hate it. And why is that? Observer Wu asks. Slytherin gives him a look and he turns off the camera. They'll get the notes from this interview. Nothing more. A smile tugs at his lips and Slytherin turns to regard the piece of tail he's still holding up with his left hand. It was a promise that was kept until death, but the promise was still broken. It's completely unscarred, and the only part that was touched was the beacon being removed, almost gently, then destroyed. They did it to convince me that help wasn't coming. They convinced me. I was ready to die. Then I was saved. It took weeks of therapy before I forgave myself for surviving. Some days I have to do it again. I'm sorry. Observer Wu says, for what else can be said? Not your fault. Crazy bitches all ate it when they didn't have Dad by surprise. He was unarmed, beaten, and starved, and still went through them all like rail shot through butter. They're a memory, and every day I live on this ship and live well, I piss on their graves. Slytherin takes a deep breath and lets go of his tail before shuffling his coils beneath him. But that doesn't matter. You want to know about fleet-born life? Turn the camera back on. I am composed again. Are you certain? I am trusted. My notes will suffice. Camera, please. Slytherin states and Observer Wu nods before reactivating the body cam. Now, one of the major things about fleet-born culture is that it's similar to clan culture. Even if you're a hired-in outsider, it's generally just a matter of time until you're someone's unofficial sibling or aunt or uncle. Being part of a fleet means that everyone has a job. All the jobs are important and none of the jobs are alone. And since everyone is already friends and family, strangers stop being strangers in a hurry and become family. It's not unlike what's happened here on the Chainbreaker. Of them all, only my parents are officially my family. But Jade is my cousin because her father is my father's sworn brother. Every man on this ship is family, and every woman is tied to the men. The closest we have to strangers are the Sidewinder girls, but they're clearly lining up to, well, me, Slytherin says with a bit of a chuckle as he scratches the back of his neck. Boo, boo, sappy stuff, Jade teases, and Slytherin gives her a look. She instantly shifts into an innocent pose. What? Don't mind her. She thinks I don't know about the fact she's been outright planning my 18th birthday. She wants to be an aunt as soon as possible. I was about to ask about family titles. If she is a cousin to you, why wouldn't she be the second cousin or such to any potential children of yours? Jade clearly has no idea. This is where the limitations of galactic trade comes in. Basically, in closer, more family-oriented fleets, the titles you're called by someone is not only familial to show closeness, but it also shows genetic closeness. Basically, my children will have her as an aunt until they reach age of majority, then she's a cousin. Provided she doesn't have a husband of her own around then she'd stay an aunt. Again, though, aunt isn't the proper term, nor is cousin, but they're as close as they get in galactic trade. So the familial titles also supply availability? Somewhat, it also supply who you're closely related to. I had many sisters and even some brothers who didn't share a lick of blood between us, but we were raised together. Essentially, a sibling is always off the list. A cousin is someone who's already family, but there wouldn't be issued if you brought them in. Aunts and uncles are always off the list, and, of course, parents, ancestors, and descendants are out. So if a female undaunted human was on this ship and it had a full fleet-born culture, would the men call her sister or cousin? Yes, I think it might be best if I explain a bit about the language the Hardytail fleet was starting to develop. We had specific words for a lot of the concepts we're talking about. For example, me and Jade are Alzra, which is an honorific. It means family but lacks the further clarification for relation, because we're not actually related, but we're somewhere between siblings and cousins. Make sense? How does your language work? It's about adding conditions and honorifics to clarify nouns or names. That's the big thing. Slytherin says before pointing to Jade the Observer Wu. Jade Alzra. Wu HFY translation? Jade, non-blood family, and Wu honored guest. So Alzra is family without any add-ons, means no actual relation, and Hath means honored? Fea means honored, Hath means guest. But since guest has the Fey added on it, means it's honored. There's also another trick to the language. If the conditions precede the noun or name, then they're reversed in meaning. For instance, if you were to really start prying into sensitive and touchy areas without regret or remorse, you would be Fa Wu Hath. Still Wu and still a guest, but a dishonored guest due to behavior. Make sense? That sounds complicated. It can be, but the idea behind this language was to speak in perfect code and get messages across even when being listened in on. A direct translation without a perfect understanding of the rules would just give out a lot of gibberish. There's no room for intonation and emphasis. It's all about proper order. One word out of its place can change the entire meaning. That's very complicated. Yeah, it was the pet project of Merilith Sarot Shor Then Fa. Sarot meaning direct blood relative, Shor meaning ancestor. Then meaning father's blood. My direct paternal grandmother. One of the last things I ever told her was that in our language it took a small sentence for me to just call her my grandmother. Do you think you will revive this language? Maybe, but it's a clunky beast designed to be more of a hobby than a proper spoken language. If I use some of the words or rules, it will be sparing. But I do think I'd like to use a couple. But I have many proper languages to learn. The ones of the LeBlanc Empire, formal, military, civilian, and even black market speech. To say nothing of my own interests, such as Pissin, which keeps coming up around Albrith, which is itself a fleet-born language. I see. So in summary, the fleet-born culture varies from fleet to fleet, but is generally hard-working, community and clan-focused with a tendency to quickly absorb newcomers into itself? Correct. Also crowded. There's generally a lot of encouragement to bring new people in through birth, friendship, or marriage. So if this was a proper fleet-born ship, then this workshop would not only be someone's bedroom, as well as a workshop, but we'd have a dozen people working on their personal projects in here. Not a lot of space, Jade notes. No, which is why I'm kind of conflicted on missing it sometimes. I like having space, but I like being around people too. I'm still trying to square that. Well, as a Loblin noble, you will no doubt be able to gather the resources to make many ships. Why not do that? Observer Wu asks, and Slytherin looks considerate. The door to the good ship Acrobat slowly starts to open, and Brutality smiles to himself as he can practically smell the anticipation from both sides. Warren is a good man, a very good man, but is a worrier. He had once confessed to Brutality that he didn't want to fight because he understood just how much harm he could cause. The man's powerful mind had turned against him, and made him seek peace, because he knew just how horrific harming another could be. It was why he had never fought his son on his desire for a calmer life. It was a pity that the calmness of his life kept falling apart around the rest of his family. It made visiting him for a quiet and intellectually stimulating visit was usually off the table, to say nothing of visiting his mostly Ch.Ch.326 grandchildren. He smirks at the sight of little Matt climbing up Ace's side, using her pockets, pouches, and fur as grips to climb onto the taller woman's shoulder. When he slips in his climb, Ace catches him and puts him up on her shoulder as he giggles. Then there's some smothered chuckles and giggles as Nightwing starts to curse as the door actually full-on stops halfway, rather than stalling out, and he starts grumbling. I swear I've replaced these internals and plating a dozen times since the impact, and it's still doing this shit, Nightwing grumbles. Having problems, brother? Hafid asks from the outside. I've replaced literally every component of this part of the ship, and it's still acting like it's damaged. Nightwing calls over, and there's a chuckle before Hafid and Jin Shui walk clean through the wall. Something small is thrown through the gap and clatters to the floor before shattering into purple sand. And that is? Nightwing asks, before suddenly a very familiar Ch.Ch.326 teen is standing there. Holy crap! Get over here! He rushes the small Ch.Ch.326 and sweeps him up in a hug. Warren and Mary have run up and is swept into the hug, and things get confusing until Nightwing's sheer sense of balance and raw strength is what keeps them all upright. Nightwings, I think they're going to be crushed if you keep that up, Drac remarks, and Nightwings lets them all down, and Warren has yet to let go of Terry. That means you too, brother. Let your boy breathe. Warren gives Terry a final rub on the back and holds him out to arm's length. You know, it's funny, I was practicing all kinds of speeches and proper greetings, and I can't remember a single one right now. Neither can I, but there is something I know I need to do, Terry says. And what is this about? Hafid asks. Well, when the cult got me, I was assigned a caretaker, a mother, and I don't want to leave anyone out anymore, or have secrets run around, because that's what the whole cult did the whole time. Not to mention I'm connected to the Astral Forest now, so much so that I could be argued to be more an extension of it, and she lives in it. But I don't want to deny anyone anything in this, and if you have some way to let us speak with her through the Astral Forest, or with its help, then I would be glad to meet the woman who cared for you and nurtured you while we could not. Mary says assuredly, and Terry nods. I can bring her here. Now, one of the greatest powers of a living forest is woodwalking. It can bring any part of itself to any other part, or anything in contact to any part of itself. This purple dust is astral forest matter. My mother fathoms, she eats it. Everyone in the astral forest has at least a bit of it inside them. I can bring her here now, and without distance. How much a part of the forest are you? Brutality asks. If you think of a living forest as a single creature, then a sorcerer is a brain cell. No matter where I go, no matter what I'm touching, or if I have eaten it or digested it recently, I am part of it. I make it smarter, and I give it direction and will. Mary gives him a hug. It's okay. You already have other mothers, and if she defended you and raised you and helped you, then she's already family. It's okay. Thank you, Terry says, and then without anything more than a slight pull of axiom, there is a Volpir woman among them, dressed in a baker's outfit. The rolls are in the oven and soon to burn, she protests. Sorry, Terrence says, and she's gone. A baker? Well, you're guaranteed to have been well fed at least, Warren says with a chuckle. OOCS Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 3, 27. The Bounty Hunters. It was a minute's wait until he summoned Mother Fathoms back, and Terry apologizes. Sorry. It's all right. You're trying to find the balance of seeing too much and not seeing anything, Mother Fathoms says before offering a curtsy to the group. Now, I am Belinda Fathoms, former acolyte of the Order of Inward Enlightenment, now defunct. I see, Warren says before walking up to her and then giving her a hug. Thank you for being there for my son. Oh, that is, oh dear. Dad, she's a Volpir? An unmarried Volpir? Terry says, and Warren lets go and steps away, even as Belinda is now holding her snout. Sorry, wait, they had you being cared for by an unmarried Volpir? Warren asks. I've made a point to take my medicines. Medicines? Wait, do you mean that bit of... You know about that, Belinda squeaks out. I'm a chemist. I've studied all kinds of medicines, including the private herbalism practices of the Volpir. Oh, what's she talking about? Something I'll wager a lot of Volpir mothers in the cult used. I won't go into details, but Volpir have a folk remedy that makes it so their noses are tricked and the instinct about family shifts. Dad, thanks, but, Terry says with his hands up, it's also something we will not speak of again because it's considered shameful by many Volpir. Most prefer nose plugs. Brutality states and Belinda coughs. Yes, I made the choice to be his mother and not anything else, Belinda says. But enough about that. Drac has started looking through things on his data slate and holds up the information to Ace, whose eyebrows go up as she reads the bit of cultural relevance. Apparently there was a few really weird contests in the distant past that involved a prank gone very wrong, where a great many Volpir were all made to bond with the same man, not as wives but as mothers. The resulting mess was an embarrassment that no Volpir liked to talk about, but other people found it plenty funny, so it was still bouncing around the networks. Ace lets out a slight laugh and pushes the screen back down, and Drac smirks up at her. She rolls her eyes and makes a slight huff. I thought fox ladies really like getting married to men they smell, Matt asks. Ace plucks him off her shoulders and puts a finger to his lips and shaking her head. What? She leans in close to whisper to him. It's not polite, Matt. Mind your manners. Still afraid of me? Pathetic. She taunts him as he walks his prosthetic body in and just regards her. What's this? No self-righteous candor? No begging to know where you went wrong? Aha. Ivan says nothing through the drone, just watching and listening. Does it frighten you, grandfather? To see what you could be? What you could do? What have you done to even approach what I have accomplished? I have found ways to activate further portions of the genetic sequences in order to promote redundant organ growth in galactic citizens, allowing greater null resistance to anyone undergoing the procedure. It's simple when you understand how. A touch of gene therapy, a single healing coma, and then they wake up massively poison-resistant, null-resistant, and most importantly, still themselves. People run screaming from your improvements. They line up for mine. Oh, so you know how to lure in people. Congratulations. Are you going to start wagging your tail for Tri-Tite now? See how many you can make swoon by convincing them that the fans in your hands are all that's keeping the show away? You're a whore, making people feel good for money. I offer my services for free. A slut, then. I improve lives and people willingly sign up for it. And impregnating any woman who's desperate enough to open her legs could be argued to do the same. You've accomplished nothing more than an uneducated whore, Eva snarls. I'm almost impressed at how delusional you are, Eva notes. But I suppose I should thank you again. And why are you thanking me this time? Even when I engage at your level, speaking of improvement, of accomplishing what you want, you're still spiteful and cruel. There's a lot in you that's from me, but whatever it is, I renounce it. I renounce you. You're no Grace, and you're no child of mine. Goodbye, monster. He turns around and leaves. Eva has nothing to say. Over 1,000 light years away, Dr. Ivan Grace sits up from the control couch after setting the prosthetic to march back to its containment shelf. He nods to himself. That did help, like cutting a thread loose, or perhaps stitching a wound close. She is not me. She was born of me, but is not me, and she is cut loose. Now I can work on healing myself and healing the lives she has ruined. And I will start with those gestators. They've had Matak spliced into them. I will need to speak to some of their kind, preferably an adept. Bring them in on a project to teach those poor women how to live their best lives. There is no wound that cannot be healed, no sickness that cannot be cured, and no mess that cannot be cleaned. Some sessions are better than others, and while the therapy usually need multiple applications to stick, putting them into practice does help. And cutting away Eva as thoroughly and completely as he could, separating her horror from himself as clearly as possible. It was already helping. The new mess on Albrith was not his fault, but it was a horror show he was well equipped to help the undaunted puzzle out. And so he shall. He takes a deep breath and smiles to himself. He leaves the room feeling immeasurably lighter, for all that renouncing a relative is a harsh thing to do. It was not only necessary, but overdue. Long overdue. Captain Rangi, I was hoping to speak with you, Velocity says as she activates the speaker leading into his office. The answer is yes, Captain Rangi states. There is no way you know what my question is, she states. Harold has rigged this ship up and down with spy devices, and you rehearsed your speech coming over. I overheard it all, and you've already convinced me. He answers as he triggers the door to open. Velocity is now struggling to stay visible, as the fact she was overheard is making her feel more exposed than being seen does. And you have control at it? There are 3 controllers for the insane network of sensors, microphones, and cameras he set up. I have one. Another is in intelligence, and Harold himself controls the 3rd. You know what he's like. He gets bored, and rather than sitting down and reading a book, he preps some absurd prank, bugs an area, or starts training again. He needs to learn to rest. He's developed the habit of doing too much. I had hoped that each of his subsequent wives would slow him down, but he seems to be speeding you all up instead, Captain Rangi notes. Still, that's neither here nor there. I just need some information from you about the approaching troop ship and a full, comprehensive readout of what the troops inside are and what they're capable of. Just like that? Your little mutterings mention allying with the Undaunted, or at least being neutral or friendly. You might find yourself in a session with Observer Wu, but nothing more than that. Hopefully. I will be expecting them to either remain visible or wear some kind of tracker, though. 2 of you vanishing at will was too much, and I won't be putting up with more. I see. So visible or no? Visible or no? I don't care if it's through clothing that doesn't blend with you or full visibility. I don't want you or any of your girls just hanging around in rooms unseen and unknown. You're much more comfortable around us now. I've learned about the weaknesses to your stealth and about you and your people. You're scared and acting out. That's not a threat. That's a civilian that needs to be calmed. You've asked for reinforcements because you're afraid and uncomfortable being where you are alone. That's no threat. But I could still cause great harm. As can every man assigned to this ship. They could suddenly reveal themselves to be a sleeper agent or psychotic in some way and go on the attack, causing untold damage and killing many. But drowning in paranoia serves no one. Inform the oncoming vessel that they are to wear trackers or remain visible while on my ship. While within their own vessel, they can go as they please, but I require all personnel on the Inevitable to be found at will. Captain Rangi tells her, and she nods. I will relay it. And Velocity? Yes? Relax. The concerns of this ship are not with your people, even if you're paranoid. We're going to a few more stops, then leaving. That is the whole plan. But I'm working under the assumption that a civilization capable of producing multiple FTL craft is capable of basic rationalization. I trust that a people capable of organizing a military response at a great distance is capable of being spoken to and standing down until needed. I trust that you and other Vishanian have a functional brain and understand that attacking my ship and crew is far, far too much attention and will have negative repercussions. You're not stupid, so I'm not worried, Captain Tingy says. Oh, Velocity notes. Oh, indeed. Now, is there a number you can give me, or am I going to have to guess? 2 squads of 12 are on approach in a cloak lander. The ship is small but fast, not much larger than the Saber. That would be quite crowded for 24 people. Only 4 are active at any time. The rest are in stasis. I've been hearing things about stasis. We test our troops for stasis compatibility. No one goes into stasis that can't comfortably and safely remain in stasis, Velocity assures him. Okay, which is why I will not be entering stasis. Ever, she says. Oh, I'm stasis aware. I stay awake the whole time. No loss of cognition, she says, and Captain Rangi looks at her in horror. Yeah. Hopefully you had a short test to find that out. 10 minutes. 10 minutes I could see nothing, hear nothing, smell nothing, feel nothing, and taste nothing. 10 minutes that could have been 10,000 years, and then it was over. Recovery delayed my deployment by 2 years. I hope you've shared this with Harold first. I did. The end result was that I was buried in the family and cuddled close and tight the entire night. I hadn't known it was possible to be more intimate than outright sex, but you've stepped well into too much information territory. You can stop now, Captain Rangi says, holding up a hand. My apologies. I've gotten too comfortable here. I'll consider that a compliment, ma'am. Is there anything else? I am unsure about the gestation period for my species. If it suddenly accelerates, what will be the legalities and logistics of my child being born, or potentially hatched or laid? None. I will have to think on that. The fact you yourself don't know when or how a child will be born of you is concerning. But equally concerning is the fact that this ship is effectively a flying embassy in some rights, and therefore sovereign Earth territory, but Earth is divided into numerous nation-states, and there could be an argument for any number of them. Captain Rangi says, much of the sheer technical know-how and machinery were American supplied, but I myself am Maori, and as captain of the ship I represent it and am responsible for it. That might make any child legally considered a Polynesian of New Zealand. He looks to the side and seems to be considering as if his eyes were open to a possibility he never imagined before. But a non-human Polynesian? There is a chance the child is human. We can only confirm that there is life in my womb, not what form it's taking. Even if the child is perfectly human with no visible Vishanian traits, it is unlikely the child is going to be born on this ship, and until one is, I will consider the matter moot. But my default answer is that as captain of this multinational ship, I represent it, and therefore my citizenship will count. So the child would be Polynesian. But I would recommend having the child in a full hospital and not in the ship itself. It will not only be better equipped to aid you, but will get us around a great deal of legal snares. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 328. The Bounty Hunters. Stop! The instructor orders and Dart pauses. Holster weapon. He turns on the safety and slips the gun into the shoulder holster as he had been instructed. Good now. Without looking at the weapon, how many rounds remain available for use, and how many will I see in the magazine? Come on, recruit. You learned to count as a toddler. Don't tell me you've lost the skill. 5 rounds available, 4 in the magazine, I think. You think or you know? I know, sir, Dart states. Very good. Eject magazine and fire at the target, then give the magazine to me. The instructor tells him and Dart turns, draws the weapon, ejects the magazine, and then fires once. He turns around and hands the magazine to the instructor, who begins slowly ejecting bullets. 5. There are 5 bullets in here, soldier. You miscounted. The instructor says with a sigh before bringing up another 4 empty magazines. Loud all of these. We need to talk. Or rather, I need to talk, and you need to listen. Yes, sir. Now, I understand that the idea of counting seems silly. It's a child's introduction into the concept of math. Beyond basic. But in the end, combat is about using the very basics of what you know to deadly effect. That extra bullet. That could easily mean life or death. If you did not know it was in the weapon after firing the previous 4 shots and set it down too hard, it could go off and kill someone. Likewise, if you counted wrong the other direction, thinking you had a bullet left but didn't, then you would find yourself unarmed when you need to be armed and ready. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Now, how many bullets do you have? He asks again as Dart finishes the last magazine. 5 11-round magazines, 55 bullets. Good, now I'm going to interrupt you at random while you fire those off. I want to know how many bullets you have left in each magazine and how many total left every single time. Understand? Yes, sir. So the whole family is just full of troublemakers? Belinda asks in an amused tone. To be fair, we don't make trouble, usually. But most of us go find it in order to solve the problem, Warren says. That being said, The rest of the family has such a talent for drawing it out that I can usually tell when family's about to visit because my life starts getting exciting. So, it was entirely Terry? Belinda asks. I'm not that bad. Your best friend tried to start a criminal gang in the middle of a religiously controlled space station. And Big Time got some good progress done, Terry said. Big Time is an idiot, and I can't believe you tried taking the blame for him, Belinda says. What happened? Warren asks. Terry made a friend called Charlie. He was not a good influence. I knew he was bad, but Terry liked having him as a big brother figure. Then Charlie was caught disabling security cameras and pressure sensors in the station, and Terry tried to cover for him. Terrence, Brutality states, he wanted privacy. He was caught with the components to make hull-damaging weapons on a station where they were strictly forbidden, Belinda states. Charlie never admitted to anything, but it was clear he was up to something. He's been under house arrest since, and Terry hasn't been allowed to speak with him. Not that any of you can stop me now. And have you spoken to him? What does he want? He wants out and took the first ship out. I've tried to woodwalk to him twice, but he just blocks me. You can block it? Yeah. We're not allowed to fight, but he's angry. He's angry with me, doesn't want to say it, and I don't know what I did. I'm surprised that he hasn't done anything if Belinda adds station to his character is at all accurate. Hafid notes, we're not allowed. There are limits on what a sorcerer can do, and that's one of them. The big one is the power will not show up, will not help us, and will not work with us if we fight each other. If we get in a fight, it's as Tret men and not Tret sorcerers. Really now? That's interesting, Brutality states. Why is it that way? It just is. I don't know. I suspect the reason is that in the Dark Forest, some sorcerers got into a fight with each other, and the result was very bad. Sounds like it. A law like that is usually written in blood. Nightwing's notes. It ties back to a piece of Apuk history that's been relegated into myth. One of their earliest known sorcerers apparently came to blows with another, but the moment they faced each other, their powers countered one another until the argument was settled with knives. Then both men vanished. It is said that the forest prevented the fight. Brutality states. That was the earliest and only known record of any sorcerer on sorcerer violence. Makes sense. Didn't you say you're all an extension of the same thing? Acting like its brain? A mind at war with itself is basically a psychosis. So the forest doesn't want mental illness. So it keeps its brain from fighting itself, Drax states. That makes a lot more sense than I want it to, Terry admits before looking away. Terry, dear, what's wrong? Belinda asks. I can hear him, and I want to go talk to him. But what I'm hearing is that I like him more than he likes me, and that stings. I thought he was solid and cool for things, but he's just so angry and jealous of things. Jealous of me, too. What's he jealous of? Brutality asks. Just seems to be everything. Jealous of my having all of you. Jealous that I am on another world, even though he could come here right now if he wanted. Jealous of a dozen different things, all of them he could have gotten for the asking. I really don't know what to think about him, Terry says. The everything has changed. She is no longer making new life, and that's sad. But she's not alone, and that's glad. There are others like her, many others. And there are other things too. A big shiny thing that shows people. But everyone had seen her try to touch them, and they're not real. But the not real people are showing things, making noises that mean things. Ap, she tries to sound it out. Ap-ool, ap-ool. She's not the only one puzzling things out. Thank you for speaking with me, Mr. Greatwing. I'm hoping you'll have some insights that can help others with rehabilitation, his visitor says, and Darwin tilts his head at the sight of the synthetic code. Darwin is in prison clothes at the moment. He had confessed to his crimes and was going through the system. Thankfully, he was in a prison for men, and while he had a band on to stop him from using his wings were so naturally huge in all ways he could still fly. But it was exhausting now, and they were big enough for him to sleep in them. Who are you? Darwin asks. My name is Dr. Grace. I work with the Undaunted. Now I need some information from you. This will be considered community service in regards to how your sentences will be reduced and considered. So do not think I'm offering nothing. Every helpful answer will take years off your imprisonment at the least, Dr. Grace states. And what do you want? As a bigwing, you are perhaps one of the most insightful people alive when it comes to metac wing shifting, especially for larger than normal wings, Dr. Grace says. Yes. The Undaunted just came into the custody of a whole series of heavily gene-spliced women. Their bodies have been modified to work somewhat like a metac wing, with the ability to stretch and contort every limb in their own bodies. Are you sure that's a metac change? Our wings change form, they don't stretch, they become bigger and, well, whatever else they want to be, Darwin says. We've confirmed it in the cloner's notes. She used metac genetics to get the effect. I've double-checked it. There are for certain metac genetic indicators in there, Dr. Grace says. Okay. Well, It's really hard to explain, actually. You see, most of the wing stuff is reflexive. It's instinct. Then you just get better at it. Like learning how to walk. You learn it so early you forget the tricks and just do it, Darwin says. I understand. In that case, would you agree to having a few scanning devices placed on you while you're allowed to use your wings for a time? It would be of great help. I have nothing better to do, Darwin says. Excellent, Dr. Grace says. My associates are smoothing things out with the prison officials now. This should easily half the time you're in here, if not chop it into a third. Really, is it that important? You're in here for rehabilitation, not to lock you away for everyone's safety. You volunteering to help people is exactly what this prison wants to see. They don't want you to come back. They want you to leave and never need to be in prison again, Dr. Grace says. So care to show them that you've learned? Sure. It fizzes, Harold notes as the chemical compound that Warren Wayne cooked up makes contact with the tainted soul. And indeed, it fizzes, bubbles up, and then fades away and starts evaporating. Harold sweeps a chunk of the dirt and still active chemical into a vial and runs a scanner over it. Nothing toxic detected? Already? This is blurring the line between chemistry and black magic in ways I didn't know possible. We sure he's a chemist and not an alchemist? Jabra asks him as she looks over his shoulder. From the files I've gotten my hands on, the difference between him being one or the other is academic, Velocity notes, although the gas pressure in there is rising quickly. It's not so much cleaning the poison out as downright eating it, with breathable atmosphere being the byproduct. This is insane, Harold notes before shaking his head and tossing the sample. You learn more every day, and this day I learn that for all my knack in making chemical explosives, that I know nearly nothing about chemicals, which means we might learn something fun from this. The most likely thing I'd end up creating is a copy of the compound that does the same thing to flesh, which is such a dirty way to die that I'd be better off shooting someone, Harold notes. Acid launchers. That might be, Dumya considers. A war crime, Harold notes. Why are all the fun weapons war crimes? Because the fun weapons tend to be the really, really dangerous ones that make politicians soil themselves? Harold asks. Not that they don't have good reason to be scared. Melting someone in acid is crossing a line. If not several, not to mention some things are just unfair in fights. Tossing acid on someone is unfair. It normally looks like water or soap, but is really dangerous and strips of skin in a way that even if you kill them after, you might get a really bad infection, or it might still be burning you and do something lethal. Cheap, cheating, and dirty, Uma notes. There's that too, Harold says before he notes Velocity moving to put a hand on her stomach. You all right, Velocity? The less I try to worry, the more I do, she says, wrapping her arms around her stomach and looking out into the distance. Never before has a life been so dependent on me, and I can only do so much. But it doesn't feel like enough. She's gently pulled back into a warm and soft hug by Agatha. It's all right, little snake. We're in this together, all of us. You'll see. When the first girls lay their eggs, you'll see exactly how it's done. Your little one will be the freshest of the bunch, and we'll be ready for them, Agatha assures her. I hope so. and we went zipping through the canyon at all speed, and I have to tell you, not a romantic bone in her body at that point. She, Air Farce starts to say before dodging a flick from Onyx with a smile, screaming the whole time as if she was afraid or something, and then I even started singing to her to put up the mood. But nope, it wasn't until Onyx's enormous hand covers not only his mouth, but reaches down to the base of his neck in her grip. That's quite enough. But I didn't say yet how amazing you looked in the tight black leather. I know how amazing I look in leather, but you are having too much fun teasing me, and I need to get even. So you're going to sit calm and quiet, she says. And if I don't want to? Rico challenges the fully grown Canador woman who picks him up, plops him onto her lap, and hugs him close enough to muffle anything he might say against her breasts. Rico makes no move to protest his new position. Really? Observer Wu asks. Really? And honestly, it's flattering to know that I'm woman enough to ground the flyboy with nothing more than my feminine wiles. OOCS Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 329. The Bounty Hunters. There is a bit of a pause and Observer Wu blinks. Can you repeat that, please? How long do you think things will stay together? The young woman, Amari Driftscale, asks again. Think about it. Your entire world and a lot of religions were based on the idea there was nowhere else to go and no other species. But now that there's another option, now that there's a way off, woo boy. I understood the question. I'm more confused as to why you're asking it, though. I didn't expect it. Observer Wu notes. Oh, that's simple. It's like me and the rest of the gang. Everything was going wrong, we had been badly trapped, and then we heard of a way out. Even though everything was being made better, we took it and didn't look back. A lot of us never even considered returning to Albrith. Too much pain was left behind. Only a couple of us even want to be on the planet, and that's just after a few years of being trapped. Yes, but... And men are the workers of Earth, right? So when the working population of your world hears about how everyone else in the galaxy wants a piece of them in the best way possible, and they only have to leave to get it, what happens then? I suspect that there will be momentous changes in and around Earth shortly. However, cruel space will be working to the benefit of the governments as well. Observer Wu says. Oh, so you do get it? Good. I'm still wondering how you pulled that question out of my question about how Nagasha marriages and families work. Observer Wu states in an amused tone. What you haven't asked other girls that. I want to talk about interesting things. Less so than you think and more than you think on both sides of what you just said. I need to ask the same question of many people, and I've spoken to many people. Why keep asking the same questions? A few reasons. First off is for how consistent the answers are. A consistent answer means something is very solid and obvious, but a question that has a different answer every time I ask it is interesting and shows that something is very dynamic and fascinating. I've gotten several different answers to the marriage question, and since you're clearly aiming for young Slytherin. It's Slytherin, she replies, and Observer Wu blinks. Not your fault. Your tongue isn't shaped the right way to make the sound. You're the first to correct me on it, Observer Wu notes. It's called being polite. People tend to use it a lot. I don't know why. It is a mystery, Observer Wu agrees in an amused tone. Anyways, since you're clearly aiming to be married to the young man, how does it look in your mind? What are you planning? Honestly, I'm still in the scheming and planning stage. You see, there are a lot of old traditions and styles that all go back and all would work. But it's so hard to tell what the right one is, especially since he went and made himself nobility, Amari says, and then chuckles. At first we were planning a mesmerizing dance. In older traditions where numerous Nagasha women all sway in time and use their motions in music. Interesting. And this is traditional? Yeah, but deep crag traditional, and we only have a few. But it's one of the easier ones, to be honest. No arm movements, no lyrics. Just a swell of axiom, a soothing song and a swaying dance. And what are you planning now? It's up in the air again, and if things keep shifting, we're liable to just pile on him on his 18th birthday, and by the time his parents come to wake him up, They'll find the bedroom way more occupied than they expect. Oh, no we won't, Litha's voice says over the ship's speakers, and Observer Wu chuckles as Amari looks up in a panic. Did you know? Amari demands. Less than you did. You're the one familiar with how in tune she is with the ship. Not me, Observer Wu says. You set me up. I did nothing of the sort. I was expecting to hear about formal requests or asking his parents, not sneaking into his room the night of. Well, oops. Yeah, oops. So we have a full 1,000 jesters, all in protective custody, Pukey remarks as he and his team enter the warehouse. It was in the city of Talshir, which was apparently some linguistic bit of nonsense, that the proper name for the city was the city of Talshir, and not Talshir or Talshir City. Feels good to be on the field again, Bike remarks as he shuts down the simple console he had hacked. It was only connected into the security grid and door. He had the door opened and told the grid that they were all friendlies. As far as the automated security was concerned, they were not only allowed to be there, but to poke around into everything. Go figure that mechanics are trusted. All right, gents, quick reminder, we're here to see if there's anything other than masses off Nutri-supplements and distribution network in here. If it's not a proper paste, dust, bar, or its delivery method, then I want to know what it is, Pukey states. Copy that, Mustard says as he steps to the side with a chemical scanner taped onto his rifle as he steps up into a nearby shelf and taps at the controls of the scanner. It looks clear here. Slightly higher than average magnesium content, but within standard tolerances. Several repair drones here are on a more grounded and local network. I'm in, Bike says as what looks like a Roomba with a small forest of arm-mounted tools drives up to him. I think little Tommy will like this. What? J3 asks. Phantom, Tom. Tommy, Bike says, and J3 lets out a slight chuckle before jumping up and climbing a nearby shelf. Hidden turret here. Deactivated. Pull it apart. We don't want it to suddenly turn on. Pukey orders as they start slowly spreading out to give the whole area a quick initial sweep. Several other turrets are pulled apart, and numerous other piles are all scanned. High but not extreme magnesium content in all of them. So the slime creature needed more magnesium than average? Or did whatever company supplied all this just do it this way standard? No. Way to tell yet. We've come up with nothing in the way for this symbol, or at least nothing that ties to a supplier of nutrient supplements. Bike says slapping the bright yellow symbol, similar to an H made up of 5 dual-directional arrows. Well, if nothing else, we might get that transport company to do some of the legwork for us if someone's ripping off their brand. Unless she's just using leftover paper bags, Bike says. It was buried, but I just found the source of the packages. They apparently have a policy where after delivery, anyone can just use the bags, boxes, or containers. They're a tax write-off. Well, that doesn't help. Crack one open for a deeper scan and see if the recipe matches up anywhere. We need to know where the crazy woman's money was going and where it came from. If she got her resources legally, I'll be shocked, Pukey remarks, and Mustard takes a knife to one of the bags of Nutri-powder and all but shoves the scanner into it. All right, I'm uploading the exact compound to the ship. Hopefully we'll find something that matches it soon. You see that? Olivia asks. Feel it, Olivia responds. The two of them work in perfect synchronicity and push the distant axiom they're observing. There was layer after layer to the axiom effect, and each had its own chunk of cloaking that had been under the overall cloaking. They hum in harmony to each other as they push around the axiom and start peeling apart the unusual axiom effect to unveil. It's layered like a cake. Yum, cake. Yeah, I'm hungry too. The strange effect is surrounding a series of hills and then washes away under the incessant prodding of the Olivias to reveal. Oh, that's not good. Nope. Think there's something there? Oh, probably. We should call the guys with the big guns. We should, shouldn't we? Yes, we should. Then the Olivias both pull out a communicator, and then one of them dials the communication number, and the other starts inputting the technical details of what they've been sensing axiom-wise. Hello there. This is the Olivias. We need to talk to you about something. They both chime out as the line is picked up. And what would that be about? We've been pulling apart the cloaking over Pseudosmart's projects and found something. They chime. It just never ends with that woman. Do you have coordinates? Sending them now. So, little buddy, what's it like being around the humans? Nightwings asked Terry. Matt had found his way to his no longer missing big brother and had climbed onto his back to mess with him. Unfortunately, it's very hard to mess with Terry, as he can effortlessly teleport anything he touches to anything else he or the astral forest is touching, including into his own arms. Leading to a game as Matt tries to clamber onto his back to mess with Terry's hair, and then finds himself back in Terry's arm with another woodwalk. Well, it's... Oh, come on, you twerp. Knock it off, Terry says, as Matt tries to use his distraction to get around him. Their mother, Mary, plucks Matt away with a slight chide in her voice, and he starts sulking a bit that his game has been interrupted. All right, what was the question again? The humans. They've been running up against the whole connectedness of the galaxy. The what? A girl I'm seeing called it the Great Oneness, and it's where we keep finding things that are made up actually have some basis in reality. I remember watching a cartoon about a medieval warlord becoming an emperor. The twist in the show was that it was an Earthani, then an Earthani with human memories went, and not only did it, but became the first Earthani primal. God Emperor Emmanuel Skidderway. Really? Yeah, it wasn't a popular show, but I never forgot it. Then it happened, and apparently something with the humans is happening, relating to us. Nightwings clarifies and Terry's eyes widen. But that doesn't make sense. No one mentioned it to me. That's because there are still some pretty large differences. But the Great Oneness is a known phenomenon. The Aramenta knew about Tret and Alfar before first contact. Nagasha had been dreaming of Canadors well before Canadors made themselves known on the galactic stage. Nearly every culture in existence has some concept of a Gob, Kob, and Matak well before first contact. And then how do all our races look at humans? Terry asks with his eyes wide. Sexually. Nightwing states and Terry stares. Almost every culture imagined a race of warrior men that are as eager to get busy as they are to get into a fight. A wild, passionate beast of a man. And now, thousands of years later, humans are fitting the bill pretty well. In fact, a lot of fantasy stories about how loyal such a man would be are historical facts for them, right down to the names and ages. Entire wars fought for the sake of love, or how the men are so proud and strong that shame alone can send them off to certain death. Oh, wait, did they have an analog for me? Yes, which also includes a father named Warren, Mary for a mother, Matt for a brother, and a friend named Charlie that got you into trouble and eventually becomes an enemy trying to kill you. Todd says, suddenly speaking up, and Terry pauses. Blinks, then looks to his quieter uncle in horror. Better than how they interpreted my story, though. In that one, I get outright killed, resurrected in a terrible way, then... I don't know what to call it. Bad writing? Horrible contrivances? Madness. Anyone that thinks I would value a murderer over any member of my family is nothing short of insane, or thinks I'm insane. Brutality notes in a grim tone. You know, Unc, you really described the humans pretty... Max starts asking Nightwings, more to break the tension than out of any curiosity. I've done some role play with your soon-to-be aunts. Do you want more details? Nightwings asks right back. And what if I say yes? Maxine challenges him. Then I say no. Brutality states firmly. As do I. Jin Shui states equally as firmly. Moving on from that, Belinda says, you didn't mention this adorable young woman. Was she not mentioned in the humans' interpretations of things? They had me as a close friend, and it didn't mention you at all, Max says, and Belinda looks considerate. In general, their prediction of us, like the galaxy's prediction of them, is only accurate in the broadest strokes. Misunderstanding species, relationships, and many, many other things seem to have been directly changed for the sake of storytelling. Brutality says, some of the details are terrifyingly accurate, others seem to have been forced in, such as implementing some strange set of rules preventing mass murderers being executed for their crimes. That's what's really confusing. Yeah, if that Joker monster was real, it'd be a race to see who could put him in the past tense the fastest, Drax says, and Ace holds up her hand. And that's one of the weirdest changes. They split you into two characters, one of them a pet. Ace gives a big full body shrug in response. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 330. The Bounty Hunters. Looks like a huge amount of servers, playing the stock market across about 8 different polities, Letha says as she pilots a small drone into the recently unveiled area. Thank goodness it's just a great deal of theft, laundering, and not another gigantic parade of horrors beyond the imaginings of the sane and sober. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the good news. I was clenching so hard I was going to cramp something. Rebecca notes on the communication line. She had insisted of being kept in the know about everything, so they had given her a link. Thankfully, this seemed to be something she could deal with. All right, we can handle this. I just need the account numbers and the names she's used, and I can have all her assets frozen and trace everything. I've got a team for this. Are you sure? Just make sure there's no insane trap or horrifying monster, and I can get that place peeled open and all its secrets torn apart, Rebecca assures her. You know, I expected I would be one of the earlier interviewees, or interviewed, or however it is. Bike remarks as he sits opposite of Observer Wu. All the craziness hold you up? Something like that. You have to admit it's been a busy few days. It has. Thankfully, our latest break is exactly the type we can back away from and let someone else handle, so we have some time to talk, Bike remarks. Good, good. I was actually hoping to ask you about your implant and the use of it. From my understanding, you're one of the few crew member with a non-prosthetic augmentation, Observer Wu says, and Bike nods before turning around and lowering the collar of his shirt. I see a small chrome box and a slight indentation in the skin that forms a larger rectangle surrounding it. That is my implant. It's a one-way transmitter that interfaces with wireless connections. Why is it one-way only? Security reasons and practicality. This implant cannot receive signals and only send them, meaning it's impossible for it to be hacked. The data only goes one way. Bike explains before his jacket lights up and his collar pops up and begins projecting small screens. The information instead is brought to this jacket, a popular item for computer enthusiasts the galaxy over, allowing you to see the information without any risk of being hacked yourself. After all, worse comes to worse and they only get my jacket, and while it is expensive, it can be taken off if I'm in danger. Very interesting, Observer Wu notes before giving Bike another look. But Mr. Engel, there is something more I need to know. My political opinion, perhaps? Bike asks. Yes. I'm afraid it's not too exciting. My aunt and uncle are the political powerhouses in the family. I'm afraid that I was the huffy, no one will ever understand me kind of teen. Bike says, putting the back of his hand to his face and leaning back dramatically. But if you want my opinion as someone who has family in politics before getting the orders, it did feel like an extra twist of the knife to me. Then his jacket starts projecting a screen for Observer Wu to read as it come out of the sleeve, and Bike holds it out. Can I assume that the people watching this can read galactic trade? Yes. Good, Bike says, and then suddenly starts showing a few headlines in place to place, each of them dictating numerous scandals and signs of corruption. The sad truth of the galaxy is that even at our worst, we're not standing out that much. We do terrible things to each other, and now that we're out here, we're going to end up doing terrible things to the other species as well. But the fact of the matter is, that's normal. As personally insulting, deeply frustrating, and the no small sense of betrayal those orders brought about, it's not odd or unusual, and that's a pity, isn't it? The big screw-up that's going into our history books. That's killing dozens, if not hundreds, of careers. It's common. Drake sighs to himself and leans back before propping up his feet and conjuring a bottle of beer from nowhere. He then reveals a store of glasses in a drawer of the side table next to him and selects one to pour his drink into. Care for some? Is now the time? It is rarely not the time for a good beer, Drake replies as he swirls the drink. But rather than drinking himself, he holds it out to Observer Wu, who takes it after just a moment, and Drake then pours himself another glass. The bottle is noticeably not large enough to hold that much beer. He then caps it again and tucks it away. I understand many of the worries that inspired those extra orders. I doubt there is any man in true ignorance of it. They were inevitable. They were near certain. But just because something is all but guaranteed to happen does not make it any more or less terrible for it to happen. And how did you come to that conclusion? Humans and many other races are a quarrelsome bunch. A single question can result in many different, wholly unique, and entirely correct answers. Normally that's a good thing. But when the question is, what is right? How do we live? How do we act? Or how do we treat others? Then the conflict is nigh inevitable. So of course, everyone saw a massive chance to get a leg up and prove their answers the most right out of all the right answers, proving the others wrong. So they took it and ruined so much. Drake explains before swirling his beer a little and then taking a drink, slowly and enjoying the flavor of the beer. Drink. It's better cold. So you think the extra orders, ostracization, and even my being sent out was inevitable? Yes, Drake says. Furthermore, when you return to Earth, then one of several things will happen. And what are they? Pardon, I misspoke. Several things will happen, and there's no telling which one it will be. In fact, they will likely vary from nation to nation among the sheer level of what's going on. But the things that will happen are these. Ossification, some people will double, tripe, quadruple down on things. This might work for some older populations that don't want to leave Earth or reactionaries that can't change with the time. Liberation, some will rush the space programs to let as many people out as possible, using it like an overflow valve to get rid of troublemakers. Disintegration. Some countries or political systems will not survive the information you bring back. I'm sure I don't need to name names here. Reunification. There will be those that rally to remake something old with parts of the new. Countries that were absorbed by larger groups or pulled apart due to political pressure might start showing up again. Revivification. Some factions will seek to create something wholly new with the changes happening. We might see anything from a truly united Mongolia or Middle East to the uncontacted tribes being made full and proper contact with. There are more, but those are the big ones. You've given it more than just a bit of thought, Observer Wu states, and Drake shrugs before drinking more beer. Observer Wu matches it and his eyebrows go up. It's sweeter and richer than he expected. Do you truly think that some nations will entirely fail? Even before we left, a fair few were surviving due to momentum alone. For a man that claims to have little in the way of an exciting political opinion, you have a lot to say. Little exciting about the choices I've made and the choices my fellows have made, but I'm keenly aware as to what is likely going to happen. No doubt when my aunt and uncle hear this, I'm going to both make them proud and confirm some of their worst fears. The first contact by itself was a complete paradigm shift, and the nations and peoples that can't shift with it will be left behind at best, but more likely they'll be crushed and broken by others. A grim outlook, less than you might think. Look to history, nations rise and fall, cultures wax and wane. But people are always left behind. There were 300 different peoples that the Prussian kingdom brought together to form Germany, and they all live on in Germans today. Nations rose, nations fell, but the people lived and learned from the past to grow stronger. I believe that whatever nations emerge anew from this great shifting of the world may be the strongest ones yet, or not. History is only ever fully understood from the backwards lens. We are in history now, but am I the traitor, the hero, the dupe, the trailblazer, or am I even a footnote of a footnote? Only time tells us these things. Indeed, Observer Wu states. Wait. Pause it or whatever, Terry says, and then he points at the screen. Look at that. Look there. They had the fake me stash the damn suit under his bed. He then starts laughing and a hand reaches the top of his head. It's Todd. Yeah, just making sure. Are you all right? Terry asks him. No, but I'm making sure you are. You're not the only person I've met who's been taken by a cult, but it seems you got out clean, or shifted it safely, Todd says. Why aren't you all right? Terry challenges, and Todd raises an eyebrow. We all have our favorite targets. Some double or triple up on them. Pops goes for people in desperate situations, seeing if he can't get them on the legal pass. Nightwings goes ever the attention whores. The people that are causing damage to find purpose, he contains the damage and helps them get over their current crisis. Drac goes for scammers, con artists, and big gangs. Ace here likes targeting people who think they're good at hiding. Todd says getting more and more intense, and Brutality puts a hand on his shoulder to pull him back. There is a lot unspoken between the two as their eyes meet. Then Todd turns back to Terry. I go for the people that target children. I figured you were not only dead, but dead in a dirty way. I'm still balancing it. So, you only go after child predators? Terry asks uncertainly. No, but if I have a choice to go after someone who might hurt a child, and just about anything else, I'm jumping on and stomping the child predator. To be fair, we all do that, but you actively hunt down those kinds of crimes and keep forgetting to come up for air. Drax says pointedly. Todd just shrugs. Need to get in to get the kids out, Todd remarks. So you're really not okay? Terry asks, and Todd shakes his head. I'm not, but I can handle it. We forced him on vacation for his own sake. Brutality states. So is this the family thing? We go around hunting down bad guys, each with our own favorite targets, and just do that? Not all of us remember? His father Warren asks, and Terry nods. Right, but most of the family? We're a busy people, Brutality answers. Yeah, but we also have gift for finding trouble. Oh, like Harold's gift. His what? He's got some weird, not axiom power that can let him go from really good looking to really, really boring. Like so boring that you can be watching him and you'll just not see him. You'll look around him to try and find him but can't do it, Terry says, and Brutality looks considerate. Not quite. It's a series of shared personality traits and quirks. But I have seen something like that before. Where? Terry asks, and Brutality smirks. My dearest sister, in both marriage and battle, I have never seen her like for sheer combat skill. Some warriors can learn as they fight you, openly improving as they do so. She takes that concept to an absurd level, more reading your mind as she wages a one-woman war with you. Jin Shui explains. My mother, Ace suddenly says, speaking up and really letting Terry actually know what she sounds like. It didn't pass to me, but just trying to get it to happen taught me a lot. Whoa, there are oddities the galaxy over, and our family quirk is close but not quite that, Brutality states. I wouldn't say that. I make a point of not looking for trouble, but I generally know when you're all nearby when the trouble comes for me. Maybe it did pass into the realm of the supernatural, Warren explains, which is as concerning as it comes. Good grief, would that be bad? I'd never get any work done. No, you just polish up your rusted combat skills, brother. After putting the fear of laboratories into the soul of any fool stupid enough to attack you in one, Hafid remarks. I was informed on what you did not long ago. I don't like hurting people, Hafid. It is far, far, far too simple to leave someone brutally traumatized, and that's only if you do not outright kill them. People are fragile. A flicker of distraction at the wrong time, and a mere 5 pounds of pressure in the right place can end a life. Dad, that, Terry begins to say before his communicator starts ringing. He checks it, a simple text. Oh, the inevitable is prepping to leave. I need to make sure you've got some good astral forest beacons for me to use. All of you. That way I can visit whenever and at all times. Probably should have done that earlier, but it's easy to get distracted catching up, isn't it? Nightwing's asks.